Good Thursday morning. It is May 22nd. We're coming up on the big Memorial Day holiday weekend, and you found me here at the weather desk on 13 News Now Plus. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. It's good to spend this time with you. We've got a lot to talk about on today's edition of the Weather Desk, and I want to get to the headlines. We've got your travel outlook heading into the holiday weekend. We'll talk about the weather you can expect over the coming days, and we have the outlook for Memorial Day, not just for Hampton Roads, but around the country. Now, we also have some things to remind you, some water safety, as folks will be flocking to the beaches, and some beach safety as well, specifically one issue that comes up, and it has become a bigger issue more recently, people digging holes at the beaches. I know that sounds like kind of a weird thing to talk about, but it really is an interesting story and some information you should know. Now, in addition to that, we're going to go international because Australia is dealing with record flooding, and there was a climber earlier this week that set a record on Mount Everest. So some really cool stuff to share with you from that. And beyond that, we're going to take a look at the tropics. You know, there may be something brewing out there in the Pacific, the Eastern Pacific. We talked a little bit about it, how the Pacific tropical season starts mid-May. Of course, our Atlantic season starts June 1. But sometimes we get some early development. We'll take a look at what's happening out in the tropics. And then we're also going to take a look at some things that are going on right now in Hampton Roads to help mitigate severe weather. So you get these storms coming in, storms that can take down power lines or create flooding, specifically tidal flooding and tropical storm related or hurricane related flooding. Hampton Roads has a plan. We'll update you on some of the things going on. So plenty to talk about. We had a SpaceX rocket launch. We'll show you some of that as well. We'll get into it, but we're going to start off talking about the national picture. And I wanted to let you know just how warm it was across the southern tier of the United States. Again, some very warm conditions, parts of Southern California back into Arizona and over towards parts of New Mexico there. Very, very warm. Of course, on the coast, San Francisco and LA, always those temperatures, I say always, most commonly those temperatures are kind of mitigated or you know, I guess brought down a little bit by the cool Pacific water. So that's why they were much more comfortable, beautiful there, as you might expect. In the southeast, we had some warmth as well. Orlando up to 96. It actually stayed cooler than forecast. In Norfolk, we had an onshore flow, and with that east wind, that kept our temperatures down. A lot of cloud cover here yesterday as well. 1.32 inches of rain at the airport. Had a lot of rain, and it was cool for the northeast U.S. They still have showers in that part of the country. As we take a look at temperatures across the region, you can see what's going on this morning. We've had temperatures in the lower 60s and upper 50s around Hampton Roads. And this is where our broadcast studios are. So again, if you're watching from Southeast Virginia or Northeast North Carolina, you're familiar with 13 News and 13 News Now. Again, I've been working here for a long time. I came here in 1997 and have spent a lot of my career right here in Hampton Roads. I will tell you, if you are watching from outside the area, we refer to 7 cities here. That makes up, it's kind of like the boroughs in New York. Instead of 5 boroughs, we have 7 cities here that are all kind of forming one metropolitan area, and then again, serving down into northeast North Carolina. So folks are going to be traveling and hitting the road, and AAA predicts more than 45 million people will travel at least 50 miles from home this Memorial Day weekend. Now, the majority of them will travel by car, and Marta Berglund heard from a local AAA branch on ways to avoid traffic headaches heading into the holiday weekend.
Between Thursday and Memorial Day Monday, AAA forecasts 1.23 million Virginians to travel more than 50 miles.
Our past couple of travel forecasts, the benchmark has been our 2019 forecast before the pandemic. For total travel, we have not eclipsed our travel period we had randomly enough during 2005.
Ryan Adcock with AAA Tidewater says the worst times to hit the road this holiday weekend are Thursday and Friday in the afternoon and early evening. In terms of avoiding headaches on the road,
really any day this weekend, getting out ahead of traffic is going to be best. So traveling earlier in the day, or if you prefer driving later at night, driving later in the evening after all of that traffic and just regular commuter traffic has subsided.
Adcock says Hampton Roads is both a popular destination for the holiday weekend and a busy thoroughfare to other places. With that, the Virginia Department of Transportation will lift temporary interstate lane closures and pause work zones from noon Friday until noon Tuesday. On VDOT's 511 website and app, travelers can view forecasted delays in Hampton Roads under the Holiday Travel tab. Just click Memorial Day and set the map to the time frame you want to check. That map, which begins forecasting Friday, shows significant backups are likely as early as 2 p.m. For 13 News Now, I'm Marta Berglund.
All right, and Marta knows traffic. She handles our traffic duties on 13 News Now Daybreak every morning. And when there are big traffic issues, she sometimes comes in later in the day as well. Here's what we're going to do, though. We talked about what's happening across the region because a lot of you pick up this show and enjoy the weather desk from other parts of the country. I want to talk national for the holiday weekend as well. Folks may be traveling away from Hampton Roads, or maybe you have family or friends coming in for the holiday weekend from other parts of the country. You'll notice the temperatures right now pretty cool across the northern tier of the U.S. It's still warm. Phoenix right now it's 75, 73 in Dallas, 78 in Houston. It's 79 down around New Orleans, and Orlando's at 82, Chicago at 50 degrees. Here's a look at what's happening right now. We do have some scattered wet weather for the northeast U.S. You'll notice a few showers there kind of winding down across Arkansas, a little bit of wet weather for the northwest. But when you think about how violent the weather has been from time to time over the last week or so, this map really doesn't look that bad. Yes, we still have some rain. Yes, there are still some issues with onshore flow up here wrapping around that area of low pressure, but we're not seeing the violent weather that we've had over the previous days. Now, when we take a look at the flood potential, again, the rain up there, while it's widespread, it's not all that heavy, just a level 1 threat for Cape Cod, and you can see Rhode Island back up into Vermont across Massachusetts there. That's a little bit of a threat, maybe some issues with some runoff. And also along the Red River, there could be some issues there between Oklahoma and Texas, Dallas there specifically, areas north of Dallas. Very low risk of a little bit of possible excessive rainfall. Now, it becomes a little more likely down in southwest Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. That's for tomorrow, Friday. So if you're traveling and your plans carry you in this area, be prepared for wet conditions there. And it expands a little bit farther as we get into the weekend. So I just wanted to show you those outlooks. As far as severe weather goes, while there is that level 1 threat for some excessive rainfall along the Red River, that's the area where there's a level 2 threat for severe storms. And yes, there could be a few isolated tornadoes. So we'll watch for that. The main threat for that area will be some gusty winds and then hail potentially as well if we do get the stronger storms. And I'm going to show you a future cast that will show you very detailed looks at the development of the storms here over the coming, say, 48 hours or so. So we'll look for potentially larger hail there. Could see hail with diameter over 1.5 inches or 2 inches right in this area hashed. Maybe a little bit of stronger, storm development down over South Florida and a little bit out towards areas east of Denver there in Colorado. So we're going to watch for that. Now, tomorrow, you see the area expands a little bit more with a level 1 threat for severe weather, all of Oklahoma, Kansas. And once you get into western and northwestern Kansas, into southwestern Nebraska and northeastern Colorado, there you have the level 2 threat. Again, still a few thunderstorms possible for Florida. The rest of the country pretty quiet. The good news with this setup for tomorrow, right now, the Storm Prediction Center, even though you take a look and you're going, okay, severe weather potential, when you look specifically at the tornadic threat, it's not as great there. Of course, there will be the concerns for wind and then again, some hail potentially with those storms. So that's what's happening nationally in terms of severe weather over the next couple of days. Here's a look at that future cast. And I mentioned the chances for storms later today and potential strong storms right along the Oklahoma-Texas border. That's what you're seeing there, the development of those storms carrying a little farther south as we go later this afternoon. It's going to be wet. as we continue through the day and then into the afternoon and evening. This has stopped at 11 o'clock, still wet for the northeast U.S. I think Hampton Roads, the mid-Atlantic, in pretty good shape. There could be a couple of stray showers here. And then you can see drier conditions for the southeast U.S. Out west, things also looking good. Keep in mind, 11 o'clock there, these are East Coast times, so you start subtracting hours as you move across the Central Mountain and out to the Pacific. This is Thursday evening around 8 o'clock on the West Coast. Things are looking good there. Now, let's go ahead into our Friday. Maybe you've got your getaway plans for Friday. Again, still wet for the northeast U.S. That low pressure is going to exit eventually later Friday, but you can see through the middle part of the day, maybe a little unsettled weather here and down across Florida. We've got that development off across parts of the north central U.S., and there's the blossoming of those storms that we were talking about across parts of western Nebraska, Kansas, and northeastern Colorado. You'll notice as we go later Friday night into early Saturday, that weather shifts back into Oklahoma, parts of Kansas, and maybe some heavier weather, some stronger storms across southwest Missouri into Arkansas and northern Mississippi. So that's a look into early Saturday. Later on the day, midday Saturday, more heavy rain. That's where we have the potential for some excessive rainfall. Southern Missouri into Arkansas. Again, some scattered wet weather across the central U.S. Things look great, though, out west across the southern tier. And here in the mid-Atlantic, Friday and Saturday look awesome for us. We've got some really nice weather, drier air in place. As we get into Sunday, we'll start to see clouds rolling back in. You can see late Saturday evening some more heavy storms across parts of Oklahoma into Texas, parts of northeast Colorado, and parts of central Nebraska. Those areas kind of jumping off with the more intense development. Looking ahead to late Saturday night and Sunday, that storm system kind of pulls a little bit farther to the east. So that's a setup through the weekend. Now we're going to talk about Memorial Day, and specifically here in Hampton Roads, there will be a chance for showers. I think our chances for showers really start as we go later Sunday evening, but on Monday, there'll be the risk of isolated showers. Right now, we're going to about 30% the chances, highs near 77. If you've got travel plans again and you're in other parts of the country, looking pretty good for Memorial Day up around New York City and Boston. Cleveland looking good. Unsettled weather for Raleigh, down around Atlanta, Orlando. You see the chances for storms. 88 New Orleans. As we take a look in the central U.S., I mentioned some of the unsettled weather. It looks like it's going to be going on parts of Missouri and Arkansas continuing into Monday. Could be a little unsettled around Omaha. Chances for storms from Oklahoma City, Dallas, and Houston. Pretty nice, though, for Chicago and Minneapolis, and looking good out to the west as well. All right, we take a look at the conditions and we talk about Memorial Day. The weekend is just about here, and that means the unofficial start to the summer. A lot of pools opening up. With summer comes beach days, boat rides, obviously trips to those pools and more. It's a great way to beat the heat, but we can't stress enough how important water safety is this time of year. And it's especially true for kids. But a lot of the water injuries and deaths we see are preventable. If you're going out on a boat or to the beach, pay close attention to the marine forecast. That's one thing. Just know what's going on, know what you're going to be facing. And anytime a child's in the water, or anyone for that matter, don't let them go out of sight. A drowning can happen quickly, and experts say they happen quietly too.
There's not splashing, there's not yelling, as is often depicted. And so it's important for there to be a water watcher, to make sure that there's someone whose only job is to watch the children in the water, and even to be in the water within arm's length of a child if it's a younger child or a child that doesn't have strong swimming skills.
So again, know the marine forecast, know what the conditions are like before heading out. Always have a water watcher, and make sure you or someone around knows CPR. It's also a good idea to get kids swimming lessons to build their confidence in the water. All right, so we've taken a look at the beach conditions, and a lot of folks will be heading out, no doubt about that. As folks head back to the beach, there's another safety warning for when you're not in the water as well. All right, we're talking about digging holes in the sand. Now, I know it sounds like a fun way to pass some time, and kids, and I think adults too, like to dig, but digging deep holes can lead to very serious situations, especially if they're left unattended. And it's something that's been on the radar of Beach Patrol for years. Our own Dana Smith has more.
Digging holes in major holes in sand that you can put your body into is deadly.
People digging holes at the beach is not uncommon, according to the chief of Virginia Beach Life Saving Service, Tom Gill.
You just see people digging holes, and it's typically not a big deal. But then all of a sudden, you'll see something every once in a while and do a double take on it, ride over, and see that people are in waist deep, chest deep, up to their head.
On the Outer Banks, loved ones say 18-year-old Chase Conyers died after a dune collapsed into a hole. Officials with the Cape Hatteras National Seashore say family and friends searched for the teen and found him buried under several feet of sand.
The dry sand is dangerous, and the dry sand is where you can dig a deeper hole.
Nags Head Mayor Ben Cahoon said the Outer Banks has rules against digging holes of a certain size, and it's a civil penalty if you don't fill it back in.
What we have asked the North Carolina legislature to do is make that a criminal penalty, a misdemeanor, but still a criminal penalty. It gives us a stronger message to folks who might be digging a hole.
In Virginia Beach, Gill said beachgoers are not allowed to dig deeper than the knee of the smallest person who might get into the hole. Similar
to an avalanche with in the snow, it's going to be the suffocation that's going to kill you, and the same thing with the sand. And the thing that's worse about the sand is it's just so thin and it's so hard to remove.
You know, it seems like it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but we have seen year after year people get into trouble. So we do really encourage you to take those words of caution very seriously and put that into practice, okay? Be careful at the beaches. Have a great time, but be careful. Now, you know, we always like to bring you updates. We're going to turn our attention back down to Cape Canaveral because right there at that coastal area, we like to bring you updates on the world of space travel, and nearly 24 satellites, 23 to be exact, joined Earth's orbit Tuesday night into Wednesday. SpaceX launched them from Cape Canaveral, Florida there, aboard one of its Falcon 9 rockets. The 23 satellites it carried will now join the company's Starlink internet system. Take a look at that. Isn't that so cool? Love the launch video, and it's really interesting. I was watching, you know, the Falcon takes off, and then it comes back and does all the really cool stuff. And somebody commented, you know, for SpaceX, launching a rocket's almost like becoming, you know, taking a trip to the grocery store. They're doing it and doing it so frequently and doing a really, really good job. So super cool to see that. Again, at the beaches, we just want folks to be extra cautious out there. Wanted to show you the marine forecast and take a look at things. You can see a lot of swimmers out there, some surfers trying to catch some waves. We do have small craft advisories up. It doesn't look too bad right now in Virginia Beach. We have west-northwest winds at 7 miles per hour. On our local waters, we do have the small craft advisories up through the afternoon, and occasionally you'll see some seas building 4 to 5 feet out a little bit farther east from Virginia Beach. So it looked like the waves were breaking pretty good, 3 to 4 feet in the surf zone, but the sea's a little bit rougher farther out. And in the lower part of the bay, we're looking at waves of about 2 to 3 feet. We had tides that were running higher than normal. And as we go, you know, through the next high tide cycle, they're getting lower and lower. The tides last night actually high enough to produce some minor tidal flooding, and that was because we had the northeast winds. Well, this morning we came through and they were below that minor threshold. They were still up a little bit, but they were down. And now with the west winds increasing, we're going to see the tides dropping significantly. So I did want to share that with you. And I do also want to mention, just since we're on the topic of beach, again, if you're going to be out at the coast or out for any amount of time around Hampton Roads, UV index back up to a level 8, very high, only about 20 to 25 minutes before a sunburn begins. So that's what's happening out there. Our temperature trend over the coming 10 days, we're going to see a little bit of a dip, and we can take this full so you guys can get a good look at all these graphics here. 72, so much cooler tomorrow after highs today in the upper 70s. We will see the cooler conditions tomorrow, and then we come back mid-70s Saturday. We do warm it back into the upper 70s Sunday and Monday, and then into the 80s after that. It looks like we're going to be dry, and I mean, talk about beautiful conditions. Not only are we going to be rain-free for Friday and Saturday, but the humidity gets a lot lower as we get into Memorial Day. I mentioned that chance for a few showers here, and then by Tuesday, better chances for scattered wet weather. I do expect that. Look at our dew points, though, down into the 40s for Friday, Saturday, and then they start to come up as we get into next week. So, again, it is going to be a really nice start to the weekend, but as we go later on and head into early next week, chances for showers isolated Monday, and then a little bit more activity setting up on Tuesday. All right, want to take us from here, and we're going to turn our attention to the other side of the world right now, where Australia is experiencing record floodwaters in New South Wales. So, again, a lot of interesting stuff comes in internationally, and we did want to share this. New South Wales has been hit with heavy rain since Tuesday. And remember, with the time difference, it's almost Friday there already. Now, we know at least 3 people have been killed in the floodwaters and 1 person is missing. We're getting dramatic video of rescues underway across the region as well. More than 500 people have needed rescue from their homes, their cars, and more. New South Wales is Australia's most populous state, and the emergency services minister says they are still expecting more bad news in the hours ahead. So our thoughts and prayers certainly with the folks here dealing with that floodwater. It's an incredible video to see.
I don't know, I'm 51 now. I've been coming here since 2004 to climb Everest. I've got at least one more because I've got a client for next year. Maybe 2021. And then after that, I start climbing other mountains.
All right, you just heard from a man that has set a record for climbing Mount Everest the most times. And if my producer can let me know, I believe, is that the most time spent on Everest by someone that is non-Sherpa or, a non kind of typical climb leader? Is that the stat on that? Most times climbed to the peak. And that's his record. And he says he's got a little bit more. So we'll continue to watch that. Really cool. Some people think that is it. You want to try to get there. That's your goal. Well, he did it. And he did it. And he did it again. And he keeps doing it with more to come. So thought you'd maybe get a kick out of hearing from him. All right, we're going to take a look at the tropics. And while things are quiet here in the Atlantic, we don't expect any tropical activity over the next 7 days. We do have the chances out to the west. So we're going to talk about that as we go along with the tropical update. Let's take a look right now at what's happening, and we'll take you over to the Pacific, because in the Eastern Pacific, we do have that opportunity for some development, and the chances here about 50%. So I do think within the next 7 days, there could be some development. Yesterday, it was like a 30% chance, and then it was bumped up to 40% last night. The Eastern Pacific, again, that tropical season starts in mid-May, May 15th, and already we are seeing some development. So we'll continue to watch this area here. Again, clusters of showers and storms. It's going to stay offshore, but it is something to keep a close eye to, and we'll do that. In the Atlantic, I showed you no tropical activity expected within the next 7 days, so that's good news. Our season does start June 1, so we'll be there before you know it, and we did want to share that. So the peak comes September 10th, and then it winds down November 30th. We're ready to keep you covered with anything that does develop here from 13 News Now. You can bet on that. All right, we're going to take a look now at what's going on again over there in Nepal, Mount Everest specifically. We had that record climbing, and we'll see again how many more times could he do it. He says at least one more time. Quite a hike. I would love to get over there. I can't imagine, though. The peak of Everest, over 29,000 feet. So there you go. 29 and just a little bit more, tallest, highest elevation on the earth. All right, we're going to turn our attention back to Hampton Roads here and the forecast. You can see again the skies mainly clear to partly cloudy. There is still a risk, though, that we could see a few showers. So as we go through the evening hour, this is when 7:30, 8 o'clock, we could see a pop-up shower, maybe an isolated rumble of thunder here or there with a lightning strike. Don't look for a lot of severe weather. Don't look for severe weather. We're not outlooked for it, but there could be a couple of stray thunderstorms in the mix. As we go through the overnight and into tomorrow, things will dry back out. That drier air sweeps in for Friday. We're going to see very comfortable conditions with the dew points in the 40s. Looking great Friday night into Saturday. Absolutely beautiful. And then the temperatures do warm up a little bit. We talked about that as we get into next week. Eventually, we're going to get back up into the 80s, but we do have the cooler conditions. Now, today, upper 70s. We've got that mix of clouds and sunshine. Enjoy it. Remember the sunscreen. That UV index, as I mentioned, it's an 8 today across Hampton Roads, so a sunburn will begin after about 20, 25 minutes or so. For the peninsula, upper 70s, mid 70s around Cape Charles, cooler at Melfa, Gloucester at 77, and down to the south, temperatures near 80 in Elizabeth City, 81 at Hertford, and upper 70s at the Outer Banks. Lows tonight near 56, skies partly cloudy, evening showers or storms. Again, if we see anything very isolated, we are not outlooked for severe weather. For tomorrow, 72. Enjoy the break from the humidity and that cooler day. How nice is that for a Friday? Heading into the holiday weekend, Saturday looks great. Sunday, we'll find increasing clouds, chance for a few sprinkles late Sunday night, and then a better chance for a few showers on Monday. But even then, it's going to be kind of hit and miss. The showers become more likely with showers and storms later in the day, Tuesday and Tuesday night into early Wednesday. So that's our 7-day forecast for Hampton Roads. Again, a lot of folks got to be hitting the roads and taking to the skies to travel for the holiday weekend. If you are going to be traveling, we want you to be very, very careful as you're out and about, but enjoy the weekend. And again, a lot of folks having Monday off. Remember, you can stay in touch with our forecast by downloading the 13 News Now mobile app. It is a great resource for you, and we always want to make sure you have access to our forecast, to our radars, to any severe weather coverage we have. You can do that when you download the 13 News Now app. That's going to do it for this edition of the Weather Desk. Again, a lot going on. Fortunately, the weather not nearly as widespread and severe across most of the country as what we've seen over the last week or so. And for Hampton Roads, we'll enjoy the next few days. I'll be back tomorrow morning with another edition of the Weather Desk. We'll see you then at 9 a.m.